Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Anniken and I teach knitting workshops and I design knitting patterns. This video is a lesson taken from my Successful Lace Knitting online course. The Successful Lace Knitting online course takes you right through from beginner lace knitting techniques, so how to knit lace, all the stitches that you need to knit lace, through to more intermediate techniques like knitting more complex stitch patterns, fixing mistakes. Everything you'd want to know about lace knitting really is in this course. It's a really huge course and I'll put the link and all the details to the course below, and this is one of the lessons from the course on how to fix mistakes. I'm fixing mistakes several rows down. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions please ask them below. If you like this video please give it a thumbs up and please leave a comment, and if you are new to my channel please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. In this video, I'm going to show you how I identify if I made a mistake and then how I'm going to fix it. So I don't know which row I'm on, so I'm going to have a quick look and see if I can work out which row I'm on. So the first thing I do is to see if I can see from here roughly which pattern repeat I might be on. So I'm just having a quick look. So I finished that first motif, which means I've done the first 15 rows. Hang on, no, that's that one. So that's that one, that's up to there. So I've done the repeat once and then I've started the second repeat. So let's have a look and see what I've got on my needles. So the easiest way to identify which row you're on is to go through what's on your needles and compare it to the chart. So we start with 4 knit stitches, which most rows start with 4 knit stitches here, so that's not too helpful. Then we got a yarn over, SSK, yarn over, SSK, hang on, no, yarn over, SSK. Let's have a look. So we got, no, yeah, so we got knit 3 and then we got knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, SSK. So you have to look and see if you've got any decreases. So the row below was just a knit 3, purl to the last 3 stitches, knit 3. So I want to go for the second row down and see if I can see any decreases. It's easier to see the yarn over, so you can just look first and see if you find a row which has the same yarn over configuration as you have in your needles, but it's also useful if you can identify the decreases. So if I look very closely here, I can see that that's a knit 2 together because there's 2 stitches there that have been joined into 1 stitch. So it's one of the rows when I start with knit 3, knit 2 together. So it'll be row 7, 11 or 15. Then I got a yarn over, then I got a knit 1, then I got a yarn over. So if I'm looking at these 3 rows, it's going to be one of those rows. That row is knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, and that one is just knit 2 together, yarn over. So I can rule that out because I can see I've got a second yarn over here. So if you can't distinguish the decreases, you might think, okay, it's going to be row 11 or row 7. And if you can't distinguish the decreases, it can be more difficult to look. And if I go further along, I can see that the next one is I did yarn over, slip on, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over, or SK2PO, yarn over. So if I go along here, I can see that that's row 7. So I start with a knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, SSK, and then knit 2, yarn over, slip on, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over, yarn over. So from this I worked out that I'm on row 7. I've done 2 pattern repeats that way, so I only really need to go through the first pattern repeat, which is the first half of my needle. When I look at this, I can see this one and this motif should be the same. And can you see a difference there? See here, there's more yarn overs. Here we got this blob of stocking stitch. So when I look at the chart, this is this bit here. I see that there is a yarn over, SK2PO, yarn over, which I have worked on this side, but I haven't worked it on that side. So I've done row 8, and that mistake is on row 3. So let me show you how I'm going to fix that. So I'm just going to slip these stitches over till I get to that part of the chart. Right, it's a little bit tricky because I have various decreases. So I have on row 3, I've got yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, and it's the yarn over SK2PO yarn over that I haven't done, then knit 2 together, yarn over. Then on the row above that, on row 5, it's yarn over, SSK, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over. And then on the row above that, it's yarn over, SK2PO, yarn over. So this bit here is the bit that I've left out. And I'm now on I worked row 7 and row 8. So I'm just slipping back to this section in the middle here. And I need to drop down those 3 stitches to fix that mistake here. But there's a yarn over there, so I'm also going to undo. So I'm actually going to drop down that knit stitch and that yarn over, I think. So yeah, let's see how that works. Okay, so I'm just marking a chart. You don't need to do that, but it does help to keep it straight in your head how far you need to go. So that's the yarn over SK2PO is the next 3 stitches. That's the yarn over in front. I think I'm going to take that yarn over off. I find sometimes when you have when you're unpicking several rows like this, and you have a yarn over next to the stitches you're unpicking, I sometimes find it easier just to drop down the yarn over as well. So I'm going to drop that one off, which goes down to that yarn over. So I know that if I drop that one off my needle, it's not going to unravel all the way down because that just goes down to that yarn over there. And some of these things are things that you don't necessarily know if you're new to fixing mistakes in lace knitting. So you may have been doing lace knitting for a while but not actually fixing your mistakes. You might, if you make a mistake, just pull the whole thing out. So when you first start doing these things, it's quite nerve-wracking because you don't necessarily know these things, and you learn from experience and practicing and making mistakes, and that's it. So I've taken those 2 yarn overs off. So the yarn over on row 5 in column 10 and the one on row 7 in column 11, those are taken off. So I got those 4 strands there, and you can see it didn't run any further down because that yarn over started there and that second yarn over started there. So now my next one is the stitch from row 8 when I purled above that SK2PO. So I'm going to take that off, and then we have the SK2PO. So be careful when you undo that one because that will go from 1 stitch into 3 stitches. So if you notice, I'm not pulling on anything. If I start pulling on this yarn at the back, it can unravel very quickly. But I just took, put that back, I just took the slip stitch off, and because I'm not pulling on the yarn at the back, on the yarn that goes between the stitches, it's not unraveling. And then that's the knit 2 together. So I'm going to put my needle in there to that knit 2 together, and then pull the yarn at the back. There we go. So I've undone the SK2PO on row 7, and then I'm going to unpick the next row. So I'm going to do that from this way. This is the wrong side row, so it's just plain stitches. There we go. Okay, so we're now on row 5. So 5 we've taken that yarn over off, and then we got knit 2 together, knit 1 SSK. So there's a double decrease here. So that's the, hang on. I find it easier if I go behind. So I was thinking it was easier to show you going into the front, but I actually sometimes, there we go. I sometimes find it easier to tilt it over and put my needle into the back, but That's the first stitch, and that's the second stitch of that knit two together. If you can't find the second stitch, just put your needle into the first one, undo that one, and then you end up with that stitch, and you can see you got the yarn from that row here, and then you can just put your needle in there and take it out. If you can't get your needle into the stitch, you're not quite sure which stitch it is, just pull the yarn from that row gently without like pulling on the fabric. The more you pull on the working yarn or the fabric, the more likely it is to just unravel loads of rows. But if you just pull gently and keep it relaxed without keeping it kind of under tension, stretching it, it shouldn't unravel down too much. Okay, so I need to undo that one, and that is the knit two together. So I think I said that the decrease, the first one I undid was the knit two together. That was the SSK. So I undid the SSK, I undid the knit one, and now I'm going to undo the knit two together. So that's those two strands. There we go. So I'm now on row 4. So let's undo row 4, which was just a plain purl row. So we're on the knit side. You don't have to turn over, keep it at the knit side. I think that's best. Okay, so now we're coming down to, let me just check. Now we're coming down to the row that we made a mistake on, so row 3. So just going to undo these 3 stitches because they are the ones, hang on. 2, 3, that one. Okay, so those are the 3 stitches where we made the mistake. So those are those 3 stitches. There should have been the yarn over SK2 PO. So on row 3, it's column 11, 12 and 13. I knitted 3 there instead of doing yarn over SK2 PO. Now, I tend to just fix it like this. I just hold my knitting like this. I pick up the correct strand, and you can see I've got all these other strands at the back here. I'm just going to take those 3 stitches I'm going to fix over on a separate needle. And then a lot of people will put their knitting down, and then all these strands here, because it's very easy to get muddled up with what these different strands are. So a lot of people will take these strands and pin them out. I will try and show you how to do it. I actually never do this because I find it impossible to work when I do this. But they will pin it out. Probably shouldn't have chosen a blue blocking mat, but there we go. Take that one off. Don't worry about the fact that that's pulled really long. That's just the yarn from here, so that's okay. So a lot of people will stretch out these different strands like that. So they'll pull out all the different strands so they can see them and see what they're doing. That means that you basically have to knit with your knitting on the table, which I just can't do. So I'm going to show you how I would normally do this. So the difficult thing is that you have all these strands at the back, 1 strand for each of the rows that you have unpicked. So now I come to knit this up again. The difficult thing is knowing which strand to knit with. And sometimes I end up picking the wrong one. I have to go back. So that's the one that was on my needle there. So that strand there is the one that goes into that stitch. And that is row 4. So that's not the one I want to knit with. I want to knit with the one below that, the one that goes through the SSK from row 3. We have an SSK, and then we do a yarn over, slip on, knit 2 together. If you don't knit continental style, and you knit English style, you won't be able to throw because you haven't got that much yarn. So you have to just try and manage. So slip on, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over, and then we got to remember to do the yarn over. So you just got to look very carefully and make sure you pick up the right strand, and then that strand goes into this knit 2 together here. Okay, I think I picked up one row too many on this side actually. So I'm going to slip these back. Sometimes I will knit back. Now this is the next strand. I can see that because it goes through this stitch here. So if I pull the needle or pull, I can do like a seesaw with it. So I'm going to knit. So this would be the wrong side row, but I'm doing this from the right side row. There's no need to turn and do this on the wrong side. You can just do it all from the right side. And then I'd unpick this row as well. I can see that because that yarn doesn't go through that stitch. So I'm going to do that one as well. And then I'm going to slip them back. So that was row 4. So let's work out which strand we're going to be using for row 5. So if I look at the back here, that's the top one, that's the next one down, then it's that one, and then it's that one. You just have to look very carefully at the back of your knitting and try and work out which is the correct one. So on row 5 here, let's have a look. We would be, we have to do that yarn over, SSK, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over. So if I look here, I try and work out which row I'm on, I can see from this that that stitch there is over the SK2PO we just did. Then we got SSK in front of it, then we got a yarn over in front of it. And I did say that we were going to unpick that yarn over. So yarn over, SSK, slip on knitwise, slip on knitwise, left needle into the front of those 2 stitches and knit them together, knit 1. Then we're going to do a knit 2 together. So it looks like I didn't let go of that yarn over there. That's the yarn over, that should be there. So I must have forgotten to undo the yarn over. So I'm going to leave that one there. Now I can see that that's the next strand. I've only got 3 more strands, so it's a little bit easier to see now. And this time I'm going to show you how to knit backwards. So there probably are different ways of knitting backwards. I just hold the yarn I normally do. Go in, knit that stitch, and then put it on the needle. If I'm doing a lot of stitches, I find it easier just to slip them and then knit from right to left. But sometimes, when I'm only talking about a few stitches, I just cobble together a kind of backward knitting. It's not knitting properly backwards. You can see I'm just kind of cobbling it together there. Okay, so we have to knit that one as well. So don't forget, when you have that yarn over there, it's easy because you can see the strand going through at the back there, but I haven't actually knitted that yarn over. So I need to knit that yarn over as well. Put that there. Okay, so we got 2 rows left now. So it's becoming a bit easier now to see which one to knit with. So I'm going to take that one off and knit with this one. So I am now on row 7. So we're going to knit that one. Was the yarn over in column 10 on row 5, which on row 7 is a knit stitch because it was a yarn over on the previous right side row. I'm going to knit it through the back loop. There we go. Then we can do a yarn over, slip on, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch over, and then yarn over. And then I'll go back. Now you've got to be a little bit careful because especially when you hold the continental style the way I do, it's easy sometimes to end up with more yarn over on this side, which is why sometimes I try and work back and forth. You can sometimes, when you fix things like this, it can sometimes look a little bit loose when you finish. So that was the wrong side row, row 8. Okay, so I just noticed this one didn't look, that stitch didn't look quite right. When I look at the back, I can see that I haven't actually knitted that. When I look at the back, I can see I haven't actually knitted that stitch. So I'm just gonna work that one in. So just keep an eye on the back of your knitting. If you see any kind of longer loose strands, chances are you've just like dropped down 1 row. So let's just go back to the beginning quickly here. That was where I did it properly the first time, and that's where I've gone and fixed it. Now you can see that it's a little bit looser here couple of stitches are a little bit looser than it is on this side. Normally that kind of thing, when you block it, it will sort itself out. The problem is, as you're unpicking and fixing stitches, you are pulling on the yarn a bit and you're kind of borrowing a little bit of yarn from the neighboring stitches, which means that it can look a little bit loose. Like those two yarn of us there look a bit too big. I think once I've worked a few more rows and this has been blocked, it will look fine. Now, fixing mistakes is something that's very intimidating and a bit difficult to start with, but it is something that you just have to practice and that you will get better at the more you practice. Make a few deliberate mistakes and then see if you can fix them. And let me know below how you get on, and let me know if you have any questions.